This is American Thought Leaders, and I'm Jan Kellick. Right now I'm sitting down with Tea Party Patriots co-founder Jenny Beth Martin. Jenny Beth, it's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I have a feeling you've been to CPAC before.
I've been several times. I think this might be my 9th time.
Oh wow, fascinating. So, Jenny Beth, you are, we could say fairly, you're one of the founders of what's become known as the Tea Party movement.
Yes, I am. And in fact, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary. Yesterday marked the 10th anniversary of the first round of this modern day Tea Party movement with our rallies that we had around the country on February 27th, 2009. And it started with a conference call after Rick Santelli had a rant on CNBC.
Okay.
We talked about that rant on Twitter and then had a conference call the next day and planned to have tea parties a week later.
So, and what were these tea parties? They were different from the originals, I think.
Yeah, they were different than the originals in some ways, and in some ways they were not. We want economic freedom. We want to live our lives. And it was in direct response to the stimulus bill that President Obama was signing into law and was passing through Congress before that. And that was right on the heels of, in October of 2008, the TARP bill passing that President Bush signed. So it was just this out-of-control government that was bailing people out and saying businesses were too big to fail while we watched our neighbors lose their homes, and it just seemed like there was something not quite right about what we were watching in Washington, D.C.
So yeah, this was basically a massive government bailout.
It was. Yeah. It was a government bailout. Rick Santelli had this rant. He was complaining about the stimulus bill. He asked if President Obama could hear the complaints, and he said we need to have a tea party like our founding fathers did, which is what we responded to. Now, personally, I responded to it for a slightly different, including that, and for another thing he said. He asked the people standing behind him, who here wants to pay for your neighbor's home who has more bathrooms than you but can't afford to pay for it? And they all started going, boo, boo, no. That was very important to me. My then husband and I were in the middle of a financial crisis, had just come out of bankruptcy, and at the end of the bankruptcy, some papers weren't filled out properly by our attorney, and we did not wind up keeping our house. And so we had a phone call asking us if we wanted to take a special loan from Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, which we suspected came from one of the earlier bailouts in 2008,
right,
to stay in our home and to get current. We decided not to do that. We lost our home, lost our cars, lost everything, and moved into a rental house, and we're actually cleaning our neighbors' bathrooms rather than taking their money to stay in our home. So when he said that to me, I was like, I have to respond to this because he's right. I didn't want my neighbor to pay for a home I couldn't afford anymore. That would not be right or fair.
This was very directly kind of a much larger scale version of.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
And we had financial trouble because he's my ex-husband now. He had a business that ultimately failed, and we weren't looking to the government to bail us out when the business failed. We knew we had to roll up our sleeves and accept responsibility.
So, would you say that that's kind of a centerpiece of the Tea Party concept?
It is. The centerpiece of it is that the government has been just too big. It's taking on too much and trying to take care of people outside the scope of what the Constitution is. Back in 2009, we referred to this as constitutionally limited government. We stood for fiscal responsibility, constitutionally limited government, and free markets. Around 2012, we changed the way we talk about it. It means the same thing, but we say personal freedom, economic freedom, and a debt-free future. Fast forward to the last 2 years under President Trump, and we've seen tax reform, so we're able to keep more of the money we earn,
right,
and regulatory reform, so we're shrinking the size of government, and the economy has been growing as a result of that.
Absolutely.
Now, the government's still spending too much money, so we have to keep focusing on that, and that's something we've done even last year with Senator David Perdue.
Fantastic. So 10 years ago, and I wasn't following this incredibly closely, but this idea of dramatically reducing the size of government didn't appear to have a hope of entering the mainstream thinking of America.
Well, it did not appear to have a hope of entering it. News articles and magazine articles at the time said the Republican Party was dead. And we don't say we are Republican. And in fact, we were angry at George W. Bush as president. But the point is, they were saying center-right values are dead. And we stood up and stood for them. And it's a fight between a big government versus people who don't want a big government. And also it's a fight between power and who controls the power versus the desire to be free. And that's a timeless battle, power versus freedom. And in fact, we still have this fight right now today, because we're seeing on the left they're trying to out-liberal one another all the way to the point of advocating for socialism versus saying we want people to be free and independent and have personal responsibility. And so the fight continues today, but we're in a much different place than 2009. We've had our values helped Republicans win control of the House, a few years later of the Senate, and a few years after that, the White House. We had some setbacks this past election, but that doesn't mean that all is lost. It just means we have to keep working. And really, because it's a timeless battle, it's a little depressing when you think of it this way. This is something, the battle does not end, because you have to constantly stand for freedom. And
it'll kind of erode if you
eternal
don't
vigilance.
Keep get it back.
Right. You've got a republic if you can keep it. The price of liberty is eternal. I'm messing up the quote a little bit, but eternal vigilance. The point is, you have to remain vigilant to keep your freedom, and that's what we're doing.
So, your group is the Tea Party Patriots.
Yes.
Kind of one of the probably founding groups of the Tea Party movement.
Yeah.
What is your biggest hope for this event? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, here at CPAC, we're actually talking about a documentary that our Tea Party Patriots Action put on. It's called Invalidated: The Shredding of the U.S. Patent System. It's something that seems a bit outside of the scope of the Tea Party, but it was inspired by Congressman Thomas Massie. We learned about patent rights from him. He's a patent holder. He graduated with an undergrad and graduate degree from MIT, and he reminded me that patent rights are in the Constitution. Like in the very beginning of the Constitution, our founders protected them. And right now, an out-of-control government is trying to take that away from inventors. And so we did a documentary on it. I'm going to be talking about it and showing the documentary. And I'm excited about it because it relates to personal freedom and economic freedom.
And the name of the documentary?
It's called Invalidated: The Shredding of the U.S. Patent System. It's the fourth documentary that we've done and the fifth one I've been involved in. And we did one on the border that has over 1 million views on YouTube.
Wow. And is there a website our viewers could go to?
If you go to teapartypatriots.org, you can connect through to see Invalidated. And also, Invalidated is actually on Amazon Prime and on iTunes. And it's free on Amazon Prime.
Fantastic. Well, such a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, thank you so much. So good to be with you.
Very good to be with you.
Thank you.